Hi Karthik. First of all, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to express a few thoughts on architecture, this great profession of ours. In fact, whenever I get an opportunity to thank God, I thank Him for making me an architect and bringing me to this wonderful profession of ours. You know, this profession deals with every aspect of human life: political, social, cultural, economic, residential, commercial, recreational, you name it. In fact, you can't think of human life itself without without some form of building, without some built form. Also, for an architect in professional life, every day is full of so much of excitement. Every day, every minute, every hour is full of thrills. You know, in the design decision making process, from small to big, right from the smallest selection of material to navigating a design idea is full of excitements. And the best part is this entire process is actually contributing to the betterment of life for the occupants of our building. And I think that is the greatest accountability and the greatest pleasure. Along with the accountability is the greatest pleasure that we have and we enjoy. No doubt, the process of design from macro to micro, this entire process had its ups and downs, highs and lows. But finally, as an architect, let me tell you, कि once your design idea is generated and concluded, after that journey, there is a sense of great fulfillment. You know, great fulfillment. It's a fascinating feel, you know, to be in that process of design. Also, an architect's mind is hell of a mind, let me tell you. Hell of a mind. It's stuck up at times in a design process. It's obsessive, over ambitious, and it runs amok. With every design thought, it runs amok. You know. But I tell you, creative conclusions are reached this way only, where disorder is law and there is no true or false. Disorder is law and there is no true or false. And that is the that I think is the essence of a creative process. But I tell you, looking around, many a times I feel very sad for our country. The way architects are performing, you know, the way our streetscape and the urban scapes and the rural scapes have come up, full of haphazardness, ordinariness, in, in short, in the shortest description is it's full of ordinariness. Take an example of Mumbai. Let me tell you what a city we had, what resources we had. We had the sea, we had the hills, Goregaon and Asalfa, the RA colony on the north, the Malabar Hill on the south, and the entire city running, linear with so many bays and seafronts, so many lakes, ponds. Methi River almost ran through half of the city in the suburbs. And look what mess we have done. What the Britishers gave us, they gave us monumental architecture. They gave us the Marine Drive. They gave us the Worli Seaface, the Carter Road. You know, there are so many forts in the city. You know what condition they are in. And look what mess we have done. There is ordinariness all around. The pavements, the streets, the streetscapes. When I walk, you know, any lane and look around, I feel sad that to see such insensitivities. What is the real reason? If you really think about the reason behind this ordinariness, it is the ball is parked, the blame is pointed to our community only. Because either in a government organization or in a private office or in an NGO setup, wherever, whoever is designing and doing this creative exercise, which contributes to this ordinariness, is an architect not doing his job properly. Have you visited an SRA building? Slum Rehabilitation Development colonies which have come up, this government policy of rehabilitating the slum dwellers. Let me tell you, it's like a viral outbreak of disorder. I'm scared to think how we architects have designed such settlement for human beings, to live in. The quality of life in that entire surrounding, the spaces formed, the claustrophobia, the haphazardness, the building to building relationships, the overall quality of, forget architecture, the quality of existence is so scary. It's truly, truly scary. What is the reason behind all these bad performances, and ordinariness that we have created around us, and this terrible quality of life? Who's responsible? Finally, the finger is pointed at our community. Let me tell you. The real reason is that some architect sitting somewhere, either in the government office or in an NGO setup or the private firms, he is responsible for this bad performance. He's not done his job properly. He has been insensitive, and the result is such terrible quality of life. So when architects don't perform, remember, quality of life is affected. And the implications are so serious, which are visible everywhere. If you dig even deeper, which is the root, what is the root of the reason? Root of this cause. The answer lies in the 5 years curricula of that particular architect, and all those architects who have not performed in their 5 years of education. They have neither learned the desire, nor acquired the desire, nor the expertise in designing buildings. So they haven't mastered the art of the process of design. And what is the result? The result of such a lack of expertise is this kind of ordinariness and the mess that we have created. Therefore, I feel it's extremely important, to look at architectural education seriously. The curricula, the quality of teaching, the quality of environment that we give, right from the first year to fifth year, how the designer's mind is growing, you know. I think it's very very important, the quality of architectural education, because the root cause is is where the architectural education is, and that's why I always tell my colleagues in my office and also my students all the time that this generation is our last hope. We are almost on the verge of irreversibility, you know. And if we have to reverse this tide of ordinariness, you know, this kind of compromise in the quality of life via our creations or lack of the creations, you know, this generation is our only hope, and we we need to look at this problem very very seriously. I also tell my colleagues and my students that a beautiful building is a social asset, but an ordinary building is a social disgrace. You know, you are, by creating an ordinary building insensitively, you are creating a social disgrace. I also tell them that let us design buildings, let us approach the design of buildings in such a manner that every passerby who passes your building at least looks at it twice, turns back and looks at it twice. You know, you have achieved your first goal then. You know, if you look at a student's life before he enters a professional course, you know, in his 8th, 9th, or 10th, he's been told in the 8th and 9th, son or daughter, 10th is approaching, is the most important stage in your life. You have to perform well. 10th हो गया. Then comes 12th after 2 years. All these 3 years, they don't live a child's life at all. You know, it's full of tuitions, it's full of pressure every day. 6 hours tuitions, then 6 hours of school. Where is the time for them to recreate? You know. So the 12th, when it comes, it's been told कि it's the most important stage in your life and the most important exam. After that, he comes to a professional course. Okay. In the professional course, then he's told कि now this is a make or break of your life. अरे 10th जब भी आया तभी बताया गया कि ये सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है. Then came the 12th. तभी उसको बताया गया कि ये तो उससे भी इम्पोर्टेंट है. And now in a professional course when he enters, you are telling him कि this is make or break. I mean, let me tell you, at that particular stage in a professional life, I have seen students who are, you know, who are given the idea that this really you need to attain an expertise to be a good professional. He really doesn't care so much. He must be thinking, oh, what the hell, you know. 8th and 9th leading to 10th was important. 10th and 11th leading to 12th was important. And now also it is important. So I think beyond a particular point, I feel he really stops caring. So we really need to address this at the root level. You know, the system of our education and the way we pressurize a student leading to a professional course and in the professional course is extremely crucial for him to attain a good education and then go out there in the profession and perform well. You know, we need to look at this truly holistically and drastically. I had decided to take up architecture education right from my 8th standard. I was inspired by one of my cousins who studied architecture and then went abroad, and the entire family was in awe of him, you know. So that I think was my first trigger. But my actual journey started when I got admission into Rachna Sansad's Academy of Architecture. This was way back in 1979. Rachna Sansad was a simple ground storage structure, vernacular type, with a central courtyard, simple structure. But let me tell you, it had strong value system for all of us to absorb. Strong value system. It had the power to emit that architectural education and the passionate work culture in all of us. Truly, in a very simple way. Truly simple way. As a student of architecture, I was a bit stubborn about my design beliefs. Not that I am not stubborn even today. However, over the practice of architecture, over the years, the stubbornness has been diluted. But I must say that me and my team of 22 people, we work passionately towards our work. We enjoy our work, and we are also very fortunate to have many architectural types. We have residential township in our portfolio, standalone residential buildings, in housing, high-end housing as well as a low-cost housing, bungalows, beach-fronted villas, the family houses. In hospitality industry, we have hotels and resorts, from small 3-star buildings up to a 5-star campuses, we have in our portfolio. Automobile showrooms, commercial complexes, educational institutions. I think we have to thank God once again that we are fortunate enough to have this in our portfolio. I started teaching way back in 1995 when I joined Rachna Sansad Academy of Architecture, my beloved institute, as a design professor. Let me tell you, these last 25 years as a professor has given me a great sense of fulfillment to share my experience and my professional expertise and to help these students grow up as a responsible architects. I have always told my students to believe in their own design ideologies, to be passionate about whatever creations they have been doing. Don't think of commercials when you step out. Money has to be a byproduct for any creative professional. The money has to be a byproduct. Then only the success and the glory will come to you at an early age. Prove yourself. Also be your self-critic. You should see the mirror and see your biggest opponent in it. Every student of architecture has to master the art of designing buildings in his 5 years of academic career. It's very important to gain that expertise almost fully, only to be perfected in profession. But the base has to be extremely strong. The handling of forms, the creation of spaces, the qualitative functional systems, the awareness of structures, knowledge of material, awareness of services, whatever it takes to make a building, you have to have expertise on. Then only when you step out into the profession, you will be valued, and the success will accrue to you at an early age and at an early stage in your professional life. It's extremely important to achieve that glory at an early age. Also, it's extremely important for us architects to be versatile. I mean, nobody wants to be branded with one typology, one style of architecture. अरे ये यही type का काम करता है. We have to have variation within our creations. The buildings that we create. For that, I would recommend these students to go and see the variety of architecture around us. On one hand, you can go and see the structures, the houses created by the great Nari Gandhi. Just Google it and you will see the earthenness and the genuinity of his earthenness in his structures, the astounding modernity in those years that he has created. Go and study his structural genius, in his structures. On the other hand, in BKC, go and see the James Law architecture, the magnanimous modernity, which the way he emits that magnanimous modernity out of his structures onto a street, is quite awesome. Also, I would recommend you to see one heritage conservation structure in Kolaba. It is on the Woodhouse Road. It's a two-way heritage building, which is capped and adorned by a tall residential high-end apartment tower, keeping the heritage structures more or less conserved. It is a controversial creation. However, I think you should go and see its merits too, as well as evaluate its demerit, and then keep your own opinion to yourself, only to be taken forward. So this way, I feel seeing the cross-section of versatility, as a student or as a young professional, you should let that versatility get into you, only to take it forward to create variety of masterpieces in your professional life. So guys, make sure that you visit these places which I have recommended personally, because James Law and Nari Gandhi are two different tangents of our profession, in time, in scale, in approach, and in overall design. Also, the Buckley Court example is a classic example of the old heritage and the new modernity coexisting together, whether for good or bad, for you to decide. But visit these places personally, not on this. See, today, this smartphone has, as though it has hijacked the student community. What I see over these few years, it has become kind of an eternal companion, and a kind of an inseparable convenience for them. But what damage this is causing, forget about the medical hazards, okay? Let me not go into the medical hazard. But this kind of surrender of memory skills is eroding their perceptive abilities, as well as eroding whatever information it may be throwing you at once. But that convenience, by overuse of search engines, is eroding your ability to reason, to analyze, to choose, to define, and to finally create. So, I have a strong advice here that before this epidemic gets into your body and your mind, you need to quarantine it. You really need to isolate yourself strategically in a balanced manner so as you outsmart the smartphone. You outsmart the smartphone before you become a Victorian Abdul. Designing and constructing buildings also have multiple considerations. You know, you have to walk many a paths together. While in this process, you walk many a paths together. Generating a design idea and taking it to a conclusive economic viability is a long path. Is a long path. The generation of designing idea and taking it to approvability and constructability is another long path. And while you walk all these paths to attain a final design creative solution, you must ensure that the formation of space proposed is enchanting, has the desired vibrancy, harmony, utility, functional appropriateness, and finally, that space needs to be celebrated. It has to be celebrated by its user and the observer. After the World War, when they rebuilt the European cities, you know, there were two cities where beautifully they were rebuilt. One is Dresden and other is Warsaw. Warsaw. Dresden and Warsaw, they were devastated in the World War. But when they were rebuilt, in the rebuilding policy, there were two important words that the preference has to be given to beauty and aesthetics. Can you believe that? And how they have rebuilt the city to the minutest aesthetic details, for their countrymen and their citizens to enjoy, is for everyone to see. While we talk about the urban mess that we have created around us, for which I believe that our architectural community shares the big responsibility, no doubt about it. So while we talk about this mess, I realize that after doing many projects in many regions of our country, in none of the planning authorities' development control regulation, quality of design or quality of space created has no consideration or mention, not a single written word about beauty or aesthetics or any parameter of quality of design, any aspects of quality of design. This is amazing, isn't it? Because what we teach the students for 5 years, mass and proportion, volumetrics, beauty, aesthetics, third dimension, good use of material. So all these are design issues which do not get reflected even by a word in any of the planning authorities' DCR. Neither it is present in any scrutiny, this consideration, nor is even discussed intensely while the approval process. I find it really amazing. The whole country, the architectural education in our whole country is what it is teaching the students and what it is preaching in practice, in administration, is two different things. See, and for this, I have a small but strong suggestion. You know, I think somehow the qualitative aspect of any architectural proposal, when submitted for approval, should assess and evaluate in some manner, you know, the qualitative aspect of that proposed architectural proposal. You know, no doubt design aspects are subjective, you know, but there could be a formation of a evaluation process which ensures that the fundamental quality of context, fundamental quality of creativity, and basic quality of grandeur, basic quality is not lost by the proposal. Or alternatively, we could form a quality evaluating body, you know, which assesses and grades and give its evaluation on some scale after constructing the project, that how much its contribution of grace and appropriateness to that particular surrounding and locality, and if it's a major one, to the overall cityscape and urbanscape, what is its contribution. Time has come for our architectural community to be held accountable to its creations. Really, the time has come. Not only morally, but in some stricture, the architectural community needs to be held accountable for its creation.